Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Today in Titletown Packers Podcast. My name is Griffin. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at AllDayPackers, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Bron, who you can follow on Instagram at Lambo.Leapers. We're coming back to you after another Packers victory, this time a revenge game over the Minnesota Vikings. I cannot imagine how I would have dealt with myself this week if we'd have gotten swept by the Minnesota Vikings. But that didn't happen. We beat them at a freezing cold Lambeau Field. Not as cold as we thought it would be earlier last week, but it was still, you love those cold games early in the year in January, late December. That's what you live for as a Packers fan. And not only did we win, we clinched the number one seed 2 years in a row. Rodgers continuing to play like an MVP. Matt LaFleur continuing to coach like the coach of the year. It just feels like this is our year, you know? Bron, how's your week been? How'd you enjoy that game, buddy?
What a game, Griff. I mean, we are now in position to compete for a Super Bowl by clinching the number one seed, home field advantage. I'm super excited, really. Everything about this team, the direction we're going, where we sit right now with the number one seed clinched, with a week of football left, our playoff position, the direction, everything. If there was one word to describe it, it really is. It's just exciting. I mean, I'm super pumped about the way we're going and the way we're headed. We have so much to talk about. But these playoffs are getting exciting, and the fact that we've already locked in our spot while a bunch of other teams are competing to just, really fight for a spot below us is really it's a special feeling, and it's great to be in this position once again.
Very exciting this time of year, as always, but it's always exciting when we're the number one seed and we get that week off, first round of the playoffs, 2 years in a row. I mean, what Matt LaFleur has done with this team is unprecedented. He's now he's won the most games in a coach's first 3 seasons in NFL history. He broke a tie with George Seifert, getting his 39th win on Sunday. He's never not had, we were just talking about this before we started recording, Braun. He's never not had a bye week in the playoffs. He's never not made the playoffs. He's never not won the NFC North. He's never won fewer than 13 games. His 3-year run here is seriously unprecedented, and it's so astounding. Because, I mean, think back to January 2019 when we hire this Titans offensive coordinator. The Titans offense sucked. Marcus Mariota, he's garbage. Why are we hiring this guy? And, you just have to have faith that he's a competent-minded head coach, and that's exactly what he is. And he's meshed so well with Aaron Rodgers, and they've put together can't call it a dynasty because they don't have the championships, but, I mean, this 3-year run has been just awesome.
He is certainly the coach of the year, and if there was any more necessary things done to prove that, I mean, he did it by beating the Vikings, regardless of who they have. 27-point win against a division rival. I mean, that's hard to do. I mean, that's not easy, right? And especially a team like the Vikings with so many good players on that defense, and they were undermanned, but it's tough to do. So overall, I mean, the things he's done as Matt LaFleur as the head coach, and uh, just the collaboration. He's such a player's coach, and to be able to implement that right away, a week after coming to that discussion, and just be able to implement that all gas, no brakes. Devontae called it the new Packer way, the killer instinct of putting teams away. I mean, it's impressive from the players to be able to have that kind of input, and for Matt LaFleur to use it and take it seriously and implement it into what we're doing, the mentality of our football team. That is so important. And it's a big reason why we're winning is the collaboration between the leaders on this football team and our excellent head coach, Matt LaFleur.
All gas, no brakes used to be, it was early Matt LaFleur. That was kind of like his slogan. That's kind of what us as a fan base, we took on that slogan in 2019, kind of made it our own. Even though a lot of games we really weren't scoring a whole lot of points. But coming out of last week against the Browns and the previous week against the Ravens, where we let these bad teams kind of backdoor cover against us and get the game close in the fourth quarter when it really shouldn't have been. We come out of this last week's game on Christmas saying, I mean, what the heck, man? We gotta put these teams away. Devontae and Aaron both after the game criticized not LaFleur directly, but they criticized the play calling for being a little bit too conservative, which I agree with. And we come out of this week, even with Jordan Love in the game against the Vikings, we're still throwing passes. Obviously, they want to get a good look at Love, but I think it's telling that when we could have just sat on our 20-point lead late in the game, we didn't. And this is the Vikings. It's an NFC North rival at Lambeau Field. They know that the fan base is passionate about it, so maybe they wanted to give them a little bit of treat in the sitting in the cold in the stands, but it's nice blowing out the Vikings like this. And I don't know, I feel like maybe last week's game against the Browns had a big impact on this.
It definitely did. It's been a few weeks now where teams have came back into the mix late in the fourth quarter after we're up by double digits against them. And then the play calling gets soft. I mean, the run. I don't even understand why we run the ball sometimes. Just it's so easy. The Rodgers to Adams and just Aaron in general is playing so well. Everything is so automatic in the passing game, and then they run the ball twice for like 3 yards and 4 yards, and then they don't get it on third down and have to punt. And it's like, why don't they just throw it? Like
And then people wonder what happens to the offense when they go on these dry spells. It's because they just
it's
love handing the ball off sometimes.
And
And
it's not like they're not playing like, the guys are running the ball decently well, but all it
it's just
takes is
like,
one
I
stop to
know.
negate the drive.
It's opportunity cost too, because what you're getting with Adams and Rogers when you put the ball in their hands, it's so much better than handing it off to AJ Dillon, who, he's a bulldozer. He's going to get 6 or 7 yards a pop a lot of the time, but it's still not like what can happen when you put the ball in Rogers' hands and just have him throw it to Adams. Because early on in the game, the first drive, there's two pinpoint accurate throws to Devontae Adams. The first one is a back shoulder along the sideline, right on the money, perfect throw. And the second one was an even better one on 3rd and 3 at about midfield, 30-yard gain. Just an absolute teardrop. We were talking about this earlier, Ron. That may have been one of the best throws that Rodgers has made this year. It is just so beautiful the way he just flicks it, dropping back, flicks it, and it falls right into Adams's hands, late hands, so the defender doesn't even know it's coming, and it's just right on the money. And you can tell that they've practiced that so many times. And then after those two plays, it's kind of like, okay, when's the last time Adams got targeted? It's like sometimes they kind of get in their own way early in games, and we talk about this all the time too. How early in games we suck. First quarter, it's almost guaranteed that we're going to make things more difficult than they have to be. But then as the game goes on, we just kind of our offense explodes. And are we gonna get away with that kind of stuff in the playoffs? I don't know. But it continues to happen, and I feel like it's maybe they're making it too hard on themselves sometimes.
Well, the amount of times that they go through it over and over again, they're gonna, find a way to figure it out, I feel like. And the way Aaron played is just, it was remarkable. I mean, the amount of throws that just went right past the ear hole of the defender was like unreal. I was just like, how many times is this guy gonna put the ball right past the guy's forehead and
I
complete
know,
it to
dude.
Devontae, complete it to Lazard? The catches that were being made and the throws that were being made to those guys was just so impressive.
It was
And
crazy. Even the drop by DeGuara in the end
that
zone,
was
which I
such a
thought,
good throw.
I
That would
was
have
just,
been the most unreal drive of the year if they just did
oh
that, because
my
that was on
god,
that
yeah.
same drive as Devontae.
Yeah, that was the opening drive. That was
Yep.
like, it would have been like, oh my god, they finally score a touchdown, and Rodgers has made like three ridiculous throws this drive. But in the moment, I'm mad at DeGuara. I'm like, friend of the show, I can't get too mad at him. But I'm like, dang it, man, how do you drop that? Watching it on replay, that throw is insane. It is a frozen rope, dude. Like, it just fires off the back foot. It's right in between two defenders in the end zone. That would have been a spectacular throw, but DeGuara can't come down with it. What were you saying, bro?
And I was gonna say, that's the encouraging thing, is like we were literally one drop away from having that drive that we've been looking for a while in the opening quarter, to get the ball to start right away and just go down the field like that. We were right there. I mean, and the one drop negates it, but it doesn't change the fact that we were that close to having it. And that's the process is the most important thing, especially in a game that you win by 27 points. It's about the process. Are they doing things the right way? It's not always about the results. The only result that matters is the win, really, because everything else is correctable. Once you get the win, then you can correct the mistakes. So you try not to make them again in the future, and then that's what they're kind of have a good chance to do. Now that they've saw, they had that touchdown. It was literally, it went off the shoulder of DeGuara, and it happens. But they won the game. They got out of it unscathed. And now they can feel good about the fact that they were right there, and they're a drop away from having that first quarter touchdown, and then the game probably gets even more out of hand, probably a lot quicker than it did.
It's interesting how it feels like a few weeks in a row now, like the offense is kind of dry throughout the first half, and then the 2 minute drill before halftime, just an explosion from Rodgers to Adams, which is what happened in this game. I think that's because I think the Adams touchdown came right before halftime, if I'm not mistaken. In that there was
Yeah, that
also
was
another
that diving, that
ridiculous,
sliding catch into the end
yeah,
zone from
in the back
Devontae.
shoulder throw, the play before, that was maybe the best throw, not the best throw of the night. He made so many great throws. Adams made so many great catches, as they usually do against the Minnesota Vikings historically, those two. Uh, Rodgers is a co-owner of the Chicago, or owner of the Chicago Bears, co-owner of the Minnesota Vikings with Davante Adams. Davante scored his first touchdown of his career against the Vikings. Did you know that? And he always balls out against them. But anyways, so it's like, against the Bears, I remember I was in attendance that game, Ron. Did you hear about that? But remember before that game, before halftime in that game, it was when Rodgers made the ridiculous throw between two defenders and Adams brought it in. And in the Browns game last week too, there was like the drive before halftime was just like 8 throws to Adams, and he caught them all, including the touchdown. So it's kind of funny how that's kind of the spark. It's the few times this season now, the spark for the offense has been just Rodgers hooking it up with Adams. And it really can be that easy, man, because sometimes it's like, they're talking about the long handoffs where it's just an RPO. You got two receivers blocking, Adams in the slot, just a quick throw to Adams and he'll take it for like 10 yards. That's like a long handoff, pretty much a run play. And sometimes it's really that simple. Just put it in Adams' hands. He's the best receiver in football. Rodgers is about to win his 4th MVP, best QB in football. Just, I would love an offense just centered around getting those two the ball, even more than it already is, because Adams has so many more targets than anyone else on the team. But I would love just the, full game plan of just getting it to Adams.
And well, the great thing is too is you can, if they're really covering Devontum. And the great thing too is if they're really covering up what Devontae's doing, they've got these great receiving backs in Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon that when they catch the ball in space, they're going to get at least 5 yards on almost every occasion and give them not only, it's not a bailout, it really is a positive play when they get the ball in the backfield. So it's just a great opportunity when they're on offense to gain yardage because of all the options that they have. So it's really efficient, everything they're doing, especially now. And the way that Devontae and Adams are way that Devontae and Rodgers are connecting downfield, and the MVS will come, his time comes, and Lazard's time comes, and it's just a pattern really of who's going to get the touches and when. Randall Cobb's coming back, and he's so important, and he was so good so far this year. Um, it's just I have a lot of excitement about the offense and just very optimistic about where it's headed. And I feel like this offense is more than good enough, just way beyond what we could even hope for. And it's definitely good enough to win us a Super Bowl this year.
I was expecting MVS to have a little bit more involvement than he did in this game. Did you notice that during the pregame, the SNF intros where they say Rogers, Butte Community College? He always says Butte, not Cal. I found that interesting. But they didn't.
Well, the thing is with Rodgers, last year he said Cal, this year he said Butte.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
EQ.
So you're a real fan, huh?
EQ, he got the start. Like he's the one. MVS didn't say MVS USF. It was Equanimous.
He would probably say Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I doubt he'd say MVS, but
okay. Okay. Yeah. You know what I mean. It was EQ, which I found interesting. And I was like, wait, MVS is playing, right? And he was playing. Just I think he had that one catch that didn't go for very much except for first down. But yeah, he wasn't too involved, but when they want to get MVS involved, he gets involved because he's just so fast and he brings that dynamic. This game felt like a game where he was just kind of getting gelled back into things after missing some time. But you're right, we got Randall Cobb coming back, who's been so good, and SNF kind of painted the picture with that graphic of guys who are coming back in the postseason. We talk about this literally every single week, so it's getting pretty old. But we've got David Bakhtiari, Zadarius Smith, Jair Alexander, blah, 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 3 All-Pros, whatever. But we've also got Randall Cobb now coming back. We've got Bill Turner coming back. And we've got Josh Myers maybe coming back. Who else? There's another one, right?
That's pretty much it, I think.
Yeah.
But EQ played a pretty good game. I really love EQ, man. He's so good.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, I like him a lot. I always say that I would like him to get more snaps than Lazard, but Lazard had a pretty nice game on Sunday. But a lot of times Lazard this season has been dropping some easy passes, but he's made some tough catches on Sunday, including that touchdown in the end zone over that cornerback, which was just a great catch. But we got a lot
had a really good game.
We got a lot of different skill sets in that receiver room, man, and it all circles around Devontae, who is just. We're running out of words to describe him because I think he's obviously a Hall of Famer. If he retires tomorrow, is he in the Hall of Fame? I think there's a pretty good shot of him being in the Hall of Fame already because he's probably going to be on the all-decade team. He has pretty much everything since 2016, which is when he really broke out. And it's like when you just throw him the ball, when he has games that circle around him like on Sunday, he just makes the most of these opportunities.
He is the true epitome of perfection in this league at the wide receiver position, just like Aaron Rodgers. You could say the same for the quarterback position. And when you put them together, they are even better together than they are separate, and it's just the greatest thing. The connection that they have, it's beyond mind, it's beyond thought. It is just complete instinct. It is totally innate, and it's just locked in between them, and it's like they don't even have to think sometimes, and it's just
It's the muscle memory.
it's muscle memory. It's just all of the above. It's beyond control. It's just bizarre, really, how in sync they truly are, and it's otherworldly. It's unimaginable at times. Yet we see it on a weekly basis every Sunday, and they surprise us more and more each week. And it's really hard to believe, but like I said, we're still doing it every week, and nobody's been able to stop us yet. It's just it's insane, and we've got a chance to win the Super Bowl with them two leading the way on offense. Really, our whole team, they lead the way. So there's a lot to look forward to. Like I said, because we've got those two guys on and off the field. They were the two guys who were the main proponents of us trying to, really give it to teams all the way through the game and not take our foot off the gas, really. And like I said, on and off the field, they are leading this team, and they are doing great things for us.
They're the leaders of that offense, man. They're the best players we have on the team. We've got to get Devontae a ring. It's he's been on this team for so long. He's made the playoffs pretty much every year he's been on the team, and he's just come short. Just like us as fans have, just as Rodgers has so many times since he won a Super Bowl. We've got to get him a ring, and that I feel like that kind of separates him from all of the all-time receivers, because some of these receivers, man, a lot of the really great ones don't have a ring, other than Jerry Rice, who has a few, I'm sure. But like Larry Fitz never had a ring. Randy Moss never got a ring. DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have a ring. If you look at guys around this generation, Julio doesn't have a ring. I feel like Adams getting a ring really separates him, because it's like you can obviously Super Bowl rings aren't a quarterback stat. They're definitely not a receiver stat. But when it comes to things like Hall of Fame and the All-Decade Team, they do look at that kind of stuff. Just like they look at Pro Bowls, even though the Pro Bowl voting process is so stupid. Rings are important. So Devontae having all the statistics he has and getting a ring and playing with Rodgers for so long, I mean, that definitely helps his chances of being immortalized in football history.
Yeah, he is so special, and I really think he's got a chance to get into that conversation sooner than later. Like you said, with a ring, it vaults him right up there for sure. And same thing with LaFleur, like he'll start getting his flowers even more than he already is now for the Coach of the Year, and Rodgers gets right back at the front of the greatest of all time conversation once, and I'm talking about
Oh
amongst the
yeah, dude.
mainstream, right? The
Uh
mainstream
huh.
people. We know where he stands in terms of his talent and whatnot, and same thing with Devontae and obviously Matt, but we're involved. We are at the forefront of what they're doing in Green Bay. All these people on the outside don't get to see it on a daily basis, but we understand how great these two are because we're right there watching it each and every week. So it's a different thing. But once they get the mainstream recognition of a Super Bowl championship, Rodgers second and everybody else is first, mostly on that football team, that's when everybody starts getting the recognition. That's when Devondre Campbell turns into a superstar amongst everybody and not just us. And Rasul Douglas becomes one of the league's top 5 corners, renowned throughout the league, and not just in our eyes. And that's when guys like Kenny Clark start really getting the credit of being a superstar at nose tackle, unstoppable at the line of scrimmage. And if Za'Darius comes back and Preston finally gets that recognition, and I could go on and on and on, but it's just everybody starts to get the recognition. They're able to get better money because they're now Super Bowl champions. They've been in a Super Bowl locker room with a Super Bowl quarterback on a Super Bowl team, coached by a Super Bowl head coach. And that's the exciting thing for all our players, the coaches, everybody. It's just a great thing. And let's just get this thing done, man. We are now 3 wins away, excluding this Lions game. We are 3 wins away from being Super Bowl champions. And it's so exciting. And not to count our chickens before they hatch, but like I said
Yeah.
last week, just give us the ring already, baby. You got it.
Yeah, I've learned my lesson after last year, because I was talking to my girlfriend about this. Last year, I talked to her about a lot of football stuff, and she just tunes me out, I'm sure. But I got no one else to talk to about this stuff other than you, Bron. So I was talking to her
And
about
I
how
tune you
last
out
year.
too. I tune you out as well. So sounds like you're
Yeah.
stuck there.
Last year, before the NFC Championship game, I think you got in my head a little bit. I'm going to be honest, because on this podcast, you're like, we got this in a bag. I just can't imagine a way in which we lose this game. go back and listen to that one. But before the NFC Championship game, I'm kind of like, Brett Favre talks about this when he won the Super Bowl. He was kind of like, oh, like he didn't feel the excitement he thought he would have felt. And I was kind of getting nervous about that. I was like, so we're probably gonna win the Super Bowl this year. We're probably gonna go to the Super Bowl. I feel like I'm not gonna be as excited as I need to be. And then we lose and the whole world comes crashing down on me, and I was devastated for days on end. But I feel like this year that the same thing isn't gonna happen because I'm not going to take it for granted. I'm not going to take this for granted. The fact that we are the number one seed, even thinking back to week one, thinking about how awful things could have gone. And here we are. Rodgers has lost one game since week one, which is just crazy. Thinking about where the rest of the NFL stands in terms of, like the Cowboys losing to the Cardinals, the Bucks getting shut out, almost losing to the Jets yesterday, like all these guys, and we're just beating the Minnesota Vikings 37-10, just like business as usual. This is such a special team, and it's such a special season. Even though this is the third time we've done this, it just feels like another special season. What was I going to say about the Super Bowl rings? Okay, yeah, that kind of just adds just adds something to everyone's resume, right? Even guys like Mason Crosby, like he's a two-time Super Bowl champion, Mason Crosby. But for Rodgers, remember Peyton Manning when he won his second one? It was kind of like it kind of changed the way that everyone talked about him in terms of GOAT talk, and it's probably going to do the same thing for Rodgers, assuming he can get that second one sometime in his career before he's gone. Because it's like for a while when he was still like early 30s, he was a lot of people in the mainstream were talking about him as the greatest of all time. Super Bowl rings. He's so young. He's got chances to get more. He's come up short since he won his first one, but he's the most talented, and change his situation with Brady, and he's also gonna have that amount of Super Bowl rings. But as he continues to lose in the playoffs, he's had those years where he didn't make the playoffs. It's kind of died down where people now think of him. The argument is more like top five. Is Rodgers top five all time? Some people is Rodgers top 10 all time. We know where we stand on that, but him getting that second ring makes it 2016 again, where people in the mainstream on the talking head shows are talking about Aaron Rodgers as better than Tom Brady. And that's exciting, man. This second Super Bowl, I'm not taking it for granted again, man. This is such a special year, and I really hope we can get this one. I really do.
I made a statement last year that I thought I still think it was true when I said it, but I said, and Griff, you'll remember it as soon as I say this to you right now, because I believe it this year to be even more so than last year when I said it. This year feels like our year more than any other year. And I said that last year, and I'm
I remember
saying it
you
again
saying that.
now.
Yeah, I
You
remember you
remember I
saying
said
that.
it. It's a profound
Yeah.
statement. It really is a profound statement to say something like that. And I felt it was true last year. I still feel like it was true at the time. And now it's even more true. And to think about that, despite everything we've gone through, the injuries, the guys that we lost, like Corey Linsley and others that we thought were going to be super, super crucial to us, maybe even, you know, losing more games this year. But here we are in a position to win more games. Who would have thought that, right? To be now in a position to win 14 instead of 13 when everybody was saying we were going to regress. And as you always like to say, regress to the mean and whatnot. Sometimes we are a winning franchise, and the mean for us is a lot greater than the mean for other teams, Griff. And I feel like we are now in a position with this team, the guys we've added, the even David Moore returning punts and kicks, like that's the type of addition that we made, that it's just like you feel like this is a Super Bowl edition, and he's going to be a key contributor just by not making mistakes or just getting any positive plays on special teams. It just helps us immensely, and that's the kind of thing that we're doing, and that's why I feel like this year, even more so than last year, feels like our year more than any other year, Griff, and I am so excited about that. And I'm even more optimistic, and I didn't think that was possible after losing last year. But it makes this situation that we're in now, losing that NFC Championship, which we should have won. We were so close. It feels like we're in even. It feels so much sweeter now that we've gone through that. We have the experience of losing that game, and we're gonna be so locked in, ready for this. All these playoff games because of what happened last year and the year before that. We're going to be so ready to win it all, and we are the most experienced team in this playoffs. Apart from, I guess you could say, the Bucks, because they actually went to the Super Bowl and won it. but we've been to the NFC Championship 2 years in a row. We have the number one seed again. We have a bye for 3 years in a row now. We've got the best quarterback in football, the best receiver in football. Our defense has talent everywhere. It's starting to find itself again after we had a little bit of a few games where we weren't playing as great, but the turnovers are there. We've got the additions we've been looking for. Devondre Campbell, Rasul Douglas, everybody's playing well. We're going to get guys back from injuries like Zadarius Smith and Jair Alexander, and that's going to transform our defense to make it even better than we've already feeling like it's a Super Bowl defense now. It's going to be in an even better spot if we can get those guys back. David Bakhtiari back on the offensive line. Josh Myers back on the offensive line. Bill Turner back on the offensive line. We're getting healthier. Randall Cobb, you can't forget him, his Super Bowl caliber level of experience and leadership in the locker room. I just poured a lot on you there, Griff, but that is why I feel like we're going to win the Super Bowl this year, and I can't say enough about how great of a position we're in right now.
This podcast after a potential playoff loss is going to be even more depressing than it was last year. I haven't listened to the one from last year over again, and I don't even want to think about it because it's just such a sad point in my life. But you're right, dude. You're right. It feels like our year, and I keep saying how Rasul Douglas is going to get his own chapter in the book about the 2021 Packers if we win it all. And there's going to be that book is going to be so long when you really start to think about Rasul Douglas and Devondre Campbell and David Moore. Give him a chapter. And the resiliency from all these guys, all the injuries, the offensive line, they need a few chapters what they've gone through this year. All the Rodgers drama from the offseason, in season, Randall Cobb, all of it, dude. It all needs its own chapter. And this is it's just the storybook season. And whenever I think about storybook,
and you know what it's
season,
called, Griff? You know what the book's going to be called?
Oh boy, what's the book called?
The First Dance, not the Last Dance. It's the First Dance.
That is awful. That is
because
really
Rodgers is not going anywhere, baby. Rodgers is staying.
Okay,
and so is Devontae.
It's the 15th dance?
No, it's the first dance. It's the first Super Bowl with Rodgers and Devontae, and there's plenty more where that came from.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Don't hate on it. Would you rather it be called The Last Dance when Rodgers comes back next year?
Well, okay, so what do you think?
What are you calling the book then? What are you calling the book? Come up with something better and then criticize me.
No, I'm going to wait for someone to say something in the playoffs because, that's going to happen. That's going to be quoted. Maybe in the Super Bowl, a la Clay Matthews, or no, who's the linebacker coach? What was his name?
Kevin Green.
It's Kevin Green. It is time.
And then Clay Matthews makes that forced fumble that's helped seal the game.
That was a special year,
play, Griff? Who's going to make the plays in the playoffs? Who's the playoff
I got
hero?
Devondre and Rasul both getting interceptions late in both playoff games, the divisional and the NFC Championship game at Lambeau Field. Both of them in their respective games are going to get an interception late in the game, and it's just the crowd goes crazy. This is our year. 2010, such a special season, man, when you think of all the storylines with that team. And this year, it just has the feeling, and it had the feeling last year too. And early on this season, Bron, do you remember this? When we were winning games, but it wasn't really the prettiest thing in the world. We weren't playing that well, and it's wow, I can't believe we lost in the playoffs last year. It was our year more than any other year, as you said last year, and we lost, but here we are again, same spot. This time it's I don't think our offense is as good as it was last year because last year was historically good. But when you look at the gap between us and the second best team in the NFL and the third best team in the NFL, I think that gap is wider this year than it was last year, if that makes sense.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. I don't think – obviously the numbers would say Rodgers had a better year last year, but there's something about the way that comparative to the rest of the league, nobody can touch us. Nobody touches Aaron Rodgers this year. I don't think there's a quarterback even close to what Rodgers is doing from a throw-to-throw basis. And I don't think, obviously with him and Devontae, it's unmatched. So I think that's a great way you just put it there. And yeah, the gap. Same thing with defensively. I just feel like our defense, the way we're getting turnovers, and we've shown so many ways to win on defense, right? The turnovers is one way, and it's a little bit more of you have to get them, and if you don't, you're in trouble if you rely on those. But then we've gone out and, we allowed 10 points to Minnesota last week. They didn't have Kirk, but still have Justin Jefferson, still have Dalvin Cook. He ran for 13 yards in that game. That's tough to do. You can't overstate that. especially when he ran for like 163 yards
Yeah,
on
when
us in the
he
last game.
run every single game we play them, no matter where, it feels like he's always going off. So 13 yards on what, like 9 carries, something crazy like
Yes.
that. I mean, that's a great performance. A la, oh my god, dude! Remember last week? I told this to you before we started recording. Last week I compared this game to the Titans game, second to last game of the season at Lambeau Field, extreme temperatures, extreme weather, and I feel like this is going to be the offensive explosion. And what do you think happened last year against the Titans? Everyone's talking about Derrick Henry running all over us. Oh, the Packers' run defense sucks. And then we shut down Derrick Henry. And we shut down Dalvin Cook this game. The parallels are there. I wish it snowed this game. Anyways, back to what you were saying, Brown. Sorry for that.
No, it's okay. And you think about the way that we won this game, and then it's kind of the same way we won in Seattle, where we shut out Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. We shut them out. We shut them out, and we're just showing so many ways to win. And even when we lost to Kansas City, we held them to 13 points, right? And we're just showing so many ways to win. We can do it the hard way, the grimy, the gritty way of holding teams with elite offensive talent and elite offenses in general to less than 20 points. Or we can get a bunch of turnovers against a team like the Browns, who maybe don't have the same personnel, but maybe they're having a little more success running the football with a guy like Nick Chubb, who's very good and very talented. Maybe, you know what I mean? Like maybe we go and get the interceptions then against the quarterback. Whatever we have to do, we're doing it on defense enough to win the game at least. And that's the impressive thing. So, and like I said, if we get a chance to get Zadarius Smith back, and more importantly, probably Jair, he seems like it's gonna happen for him, which is great. Because then that transforms our secondary in the best way. But to get Zadarius back would be huge too, because he'll be such a boon to our pass rush with what Gary's doing. And I'm just excited for this defense, man. And I'm looking at Aaron right now on the Monday Night Football Manning cast, and it's just like this is such a Super Bowl team, man. I'm just looking forward to everything, and we've got a chance now where we could play Aaron and Devontae for like a quarter, maybe two, if they want. That's a discussion we'll have, Griff. I think we should actually discuss that
Yeah, we got to
debate.
talk about that. We got to
That's,
talk about that
but I'm
because
just so excited, Griff. I can't
yeah,
overstate it.
the most valuable thing you look for in not just a defense but an NFL team is multiple ways to win, and we've shown that on offense and defense. As you said, we on offense we can throw it to Devontae a bunch of times, or we can hand it off to Dylan and Jones and let them beat you on the ground. This team is so versatile, and it's easy to kind of think about, okay, well, this performance isn't that impressive because they had Sean Mannion starting and Kirk Cousins was obviously not in this game. But then I think about all the Instagram comments I got on my post about Kirk Cousins not playing in this game, about how it doesn't matter. Dalvin Cook is going to run all over us. So the quarterback doesn't matter. Or I posted about how Kirk Cousins sucks in cold weather games, and it doesn't matter. Dalvin Cook's going to run all over us. And just like last year, man, just like last year, Derrick Henry is going to destroy us. This is going to be an awful game. And then we just shut him down. So great performance from the defense. And I think the weather has a lot to do with it. These guys play in a dome, bro. I don't care where they live. They play in a dome. You think they want to come? The way Mike Tirico was talking about it on the broadcast, bro, it got me so hyped. It got me so excited thinking about this is where you've got to come if you're in the NFC. You want to get to the Super Bowl? You want to go play in LA? Be on every person in America's television in February. You've got to win in Lambeau Field, and it is 10 degrees right now. Feels like -1 at some point in the game. That is just, it's so exciting getting the 1 seed, and it didn't work out last year, but I don't care. It's still so exciting, the thought of a team being scared to come to Green Bay to play in this weather. It's such an advantage. Rodgers says he wants it as cold as possible at all times. He's not going to go to Tampa like Tom Brady. He's going to embrace the conditions, and he always balls out when it's this weather, and it seems like teams, they're just not ready for it.
All right, Griff. So that raises the question. Okay, wait, no, Rogers is on. I gotta hear this, buddy. Let's pause this and
Okay, can you turn your TV up?
yep, turn my TV up. Sure. Okay, Griff. With that, let's have that debate. What do we think here? Should they sit Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, everybody else, all the starters, the veterans? Should they sit, or you know, should they go and play maybe half the game and avoid a 3 week layoff of really essentially not playing significant snaps of any football kind? What do you think here? It's definitely one debate that everybody's going to be having over the course of the next week. What do you personally think, though, that the Packers should do? Matt LaFleur, how should they go about this?
Well, we just watched the Manning cast together, Bron, and Rogers was obviously on it. And Peyton Manning said something about Rodgers is going to be punished by being benched week 18 against the Lions, and Rodgers said something along the lines of, "Yeah, right. We'll see about that." I think that may have been word for word what he said. So sounds like he is definitely going to be out there. Adams said at his press conference after the game that he's definitely going to be out there as well, or at least wants to be. So Matt LaFleur, players coach. I'm sure that both of them are going to play. But the real question is, how much are they going to play? Because I'm sure they want to see Jordan Love. Jordan Love's only snaps this season have come against in the Vikings game for the late in the fourth quarter garbage time, which can't really take anything from that. And against the Chiefs, who have been maybe the best defense in football this year, the Lions are definitely not that. So I could see them definitely wanting to get a good look at Jordan Love against a pretty bad defense and maybe just treat it as a preseason game. But I think Rodgers may be a little scared of what happened in 2011, man, when Matt Flynn came in week 17 and threw like 6 touchdowns. Had a crazy game, and so Rodgers got effectively 3 weeks off. Didn't obviously got the first round bye, and then comes out flat against the New York Giants, who upset them at Lambeau Field. That is your worst fear as a Packers fan, your worst fear as a Packers player, Packers coach, and that could definitely happen. We saw the Cowboys do it in 2016. We were on the other end of that when we beat them at AT&T Stadium, aka Rodgers' home, and they had set their starters in in week 17 that year. They got the bye week, and then they come out flat and lose to the 5 or the 4 seeded Packers and an upset. So that can definitely happen. 3 weeks is a long time to not be playing a lot of football. So I definitely want to get these guys out there. I'm hoping for a half. I'm thinking a half of football is enough to keep them from getting rusty, while also, you don't want to risk the injury, and you want to see these other guys too. So I think a half is the sweet spot there.
How much does it really matter though, honestly? Like, are we reading too much into it, or is it a real thing? Is it the idea that 3 weeks is too much, or sometimes you just lose a football game. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that they missed 3 weeks, or you know what I mean, or they didn't play. They were resting. I mean, there's the added benefit of everybody getting healthier and they're probably fresher, right? But is it that they came out flat because they sat, or is that just reading too much into it? With the same idea about, do they have to play? Like, do they really have to play? Or can you go without playing 2 weeks? And is that really something that you have to worry about, having it 2 instead of 3? Is that really that significant? Those are the questions that everybody's going to ask. But to me, you said the worst thing that could happen is if we sat 3 weeks in a row and came out flat in the first round of the playoffs. Well, to me, the worst thing that could happen is if Aaron Rodgers or Devontae were to get hurt in a meaningless game against the Lions after our playoff position is already locked up and we have no positive outcome apart from getting the win on paper, but there's nothing that can benefit us for our true goal, which is the playoffs. I mean, what if they were to somehow come down with an injury? I mean, it would just be the worst thing in the world. I mean, we would look like idiots. Everybody would be like, why would you risk him getting hurt, in a game that meant nothing? And it's like, and it's such an interesting thing, Griff, but that's really my concern. So, I mean, what do you think about that risking injury factor?
Well, it's definitely a risk of injury, but you can risk an injury anytime these guys step on the field. So does it really feel better if these guys get injured against the Vikings last Sunday than it would this week against the Lions? Yeah, it would feel worse against the Lions because it's a meaningless game and these guys didn't have to play. But it's like you're taking that risk every time you step on a practice field, even. So these guys want to play. I say let them out there, and the rust factor, Braun, I think is real, especially with number 12, because when you look at his worst games of the season, what would you say his worst games of the season have been? Obviously, week 1 after a very long break, multi-month break, and I'd say week 10 against the Seahawks was maybe his other worst game of the season, and that was after his COVID game. So, I mean, his performance after the bye week against the Bears kind of debunks that theory, but I'm just saying his worst games of the season when he gets a little bit of a break. So I don't know. I just wouldn't risk it.
See,
He
that's
wants to
another
play.
thing, Griff. That's another thing. That's like this. All this seems circumstantial to me. Like I feel like everybody's reading too much into it. It's like, and it's the same thing. Oh, I don't want to buy. Any Packers fan that says that,
Oh
so many
yeah.
people.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we're terrible after the buy. I don't want the buy. So
Hmm.
you want a chance to potentially lose in the first round as opposed to an automatic victory. And
That
people
is just stupid. Yeah.
and not to mention, the last 2 years we've had the bye, we won in the playoffs. The only time we haven't won after the bye is a couple times in the regular season since Matt LaFleur was hired, but we won after the bye this year, and we're going to continue to win after the bye in the playoffs when we win in the divisional round. And it's just a bunch of circumstantial garbage that I just don't understand why people read so much into everything. There's not many statistics like that when it's like, oh, well, in that game, he came off of, a week rest, and like that. It's just, that's 2 games. Like, and he's in the past come off of long stretches and played well. Like, I don't know. It's just like too circumstantial to me to really read into it like that, which is why in the end, I feel like the best thing to do, I don't know, like yes, maybe play him for like maybe a drive or two, maybe a half, but I just hate the idea of, I don't care if he could have gotten injured other weeks. I don't care if these guys could potentially, like, when you get guys on the field, injuries happen every game to somebody. Maybe they're super important, maybe they're not as important or like as valuable to winning, but injuries happen every time in every game. The last thing we need is another guy to go on the shelf for even just a couple weeks, because this is supposed to be a time of rest and healing now that we have clinched the number 1 seed. But we could get in a situation where Rodgers gets stepped on or something again, and now his foot is back to where it was in a horrible spot, or whatever. Like Devontae could get turf toe or something. Like, it's so easy to derail a season with an injury, like what happened to David Bakhtiari, albeit in practice. But things like that could happen even more likely in a game, and that's the last thing we need. It's the last thing we need.
Yeah, I get that argument. I really do. You put it well there. But at the end of the day, this doesn't matter because they're gonna play. And Matt LaFleur, players coach, he's gonna let these guys play. You really think he's gonna say, Rodgers, no, you're not playing this week when Rodgers wants to play? Maybe. I don't think so though. I think they're definitely playing. We've got a Lions game to preview here. The Detroit Lions are awful. I don't think we have to spend much time on this. But after we got fan questions. But first, got to talk about the Lions at least a little bit. Tim Boyle is expected to start, right? I don't think. Is Jared Goff? I don't keep up with the Detroit Lions. I really don't. Is
It's
Goff
gonna be
hurt?
him or Goff. Goff's been hurt. Boyle started last week.
Yeah, I know
Wasn't
Boyle
very good.
started, so we could maybe get the Jordan Love Tim Boyle game. That would be
No, it's
something,
the
right?
Rodgers game. He's playing, so
I
I mean,
know.
it's the Rodgers Boyle game.
Oh wow, how fun! Fun for Boyle. They love
I
each
love it.
other.
Honestly, I'm a little annoyed, Griff, because we just got done with this entire discussion about you telling me that Rodgers is going to play, which I understand he wants to play. Matt LaFleur said he feels like they're going to play. And then you come out calling it the Love Boyle game. Which one is it, Griff? Honestly, I'm getting sick of this. I don't want Rodgers getting hurt on a Week 18 game that means nothing. I want Love to play. That's my honest truth.
I'm gonna clip that and just spread it on the socials. I want Love to play, said by Braun. That'd be good. No,
That's
I'm
never been said by me before. Yeah, I don't think I've ever said
so
that.
it's going to technically be in the stat sheet Rodgers Boyle if Rodgers gets the start, but we really think he's going to play the majority of the game? Probably not. So
He's
ultimately,
going
it's
to
going
play
to
a
be the Love.
half. Is it not going to be a half? That's
I
what
don't know.
everybody's talking about.
No, probably not a half. It's probably going to be less than a half.
They want a half. Everybody thought
A
it was going to be
half?
that they're going to play a half.
Who's everybody? It's
Rodgers,
probably
LaFleur, Devontae.
they said a half.
Yes.
I don't think they said a half. I don't
Yes, they
think
did.
whatever. This game. Are you excited for this game? We end the season in Detroit. It feels like every single year, not last year, but every other year. It feels like we're always ending the season in Detroit, and I'm getting pretty sick of it because it's always like, I don't know, just a bad vibe about it because the Lions always suck. This game usually means nothing, and this year it means nothing once again. So it's not really exciting. It feels like we have a bye week this week, but I am excited to get to see Jordan Love play because he didn't look good against the Vikings. We know how it went against Kansas City, but he didn't look great against the Vikings. He did have some nice scrambles, but he missed a couple throws. But it's going to be nice to see him get some more playing time, some more data points on Jordan Love. That's exciting, right?
I wouldn't call it exciting. We're in the middle of a playoff race. I mean, yes, the backup quarterback will play, and that is nice for him, I guess. I don't really care, honestly. We have a lot other great things to worry about and be excited about, even more so. Yes, Jordan Love will play, and that will be interesting. But he's also playing the Lions, who have also nothing to play for. But yeah, I don't know. It should be. I guess you could call it interesting.
Is that enough time spent on the Lions? I'd say so.
Yeah, I mean,
A
just
regular
can't.
season
I
finale,
can't
week
wait to see it.
18,
Can't
first
wait to see
ever.
Aaron Rodgers go out there and risk injury this weekend.
First ever week 18. It's going to be fun. I doubt it. Let's get to fan questions here, Ron. You have any good ones? I haven't even looked at mine. I never look at mine before we go live here.
Okay, I've got a good one from uh Ben C. Malik. He says, "What percentage would you give for Rodgers to stay if the Packers don't win at all?" I'd say 90%.
I yeah, if we don't win it all, then I feel like he'd want to come back. I feel like what do you think winning a Super Bowl does in terms of his percent chance to retire? Do you think it increases his likelihood to retire or decreases or doesn't change the fact?
Well, they want to build something. I think it's all about legacy. I mean, once you win one, it gives you a feel like it makes you feel like you can win another. But I think I would say it raises the likelihood that he retires just because like he always wanted to like retire on top, but he also has stated like more often the only thing he's ever said about retirement is that he hasn't completely ruled that out. And then everybody thought, "Oh, he's going to retire. He might retire. He actually could retire." I think there's no chance he really retires even if he wins the Super Bowl, he loses the
Yeah, I don't
Super
think he's
Bowl.
gonna retire.
I
Yeah.
I hate that it's even a discussion now. People are treating him like Favre when Favre like actually brought it up like, without even being asked, like, he's always questioning and whether this would be his last. And Rodgers has never really done that. Like the only time he will never unprompted like say that he's really going to retire. The more often than not, he talks about playing 5 years longer, 6 years longer. That's what he's always said. So I'm sticking with that. And especially if he has if we go and win a Super Bowl, why leave? Like why retire? You only got two. It's not like it's Brady and he's got like seven. It's not, you know what I mean? He could easily win more if he wanted. If he wanted to try and win more, I'm saying he easily could. So plus with Devontae, everybody's still there. I mean, why leave such a great place?
Yeah, that's why I think he's gonna stay. It's funny because earlier in the season we really didn't know, but now it feels like he's definitely gonna stay, unless something unforeseen happens. Here's a question from KAI underscore G underscore dot underscore. Do you have a feeling that the NFL is not acknowledging the success of the Packers? I assume this person is talking about the media and their treatment towards the Packers. And yeah, I do. I feel like, Rodgers is get he always gets all the hype, he always gets all the blame and all this praise when we're doing well. But I feel like some of these guys really aren't getting a lot of credit here, especially Matt LaFleur. I mean, the things we talked about at the top of the show, the things he's been able to do these 3 seasons in Green Bay have been unprecedented. No one's ever done it before, and it kind of feels like it's everyone always just says he has Rodgers, but Rodgers was a completely different quarterback. We could go on about this all day long, but yeah, I would say that you know the Packers are kind of underrated these past few years. 1 seed, 2 years in a row. Rodgers may be going to win his back-to-back MVP here, so I don't know. Yeah, I feel like they could. But at the same time, it's like they got to win a Super Bowl. Like we always say, we got to win a Super Bowl. All these guys, their resume gets increased.
Okay, we've got three pretty good questions about our injuries. The first one comes from J underscore Stins 16. They ask, knowing Cobb coming back, who of the big four coming back in order? So they want to know which order are of the guys that are out right now. Do we feel like that they're going to come back? So with and not even just the big four. Also, if we think Bill Turner's going to come back as well. This person included Jair, David, Zadarius, and Josh Myers. But let's say okay. So I think who do you think comes back first, Jair or David? Because that seems like the trend right now.
Well, there's talk about David coming back this week, but I'm so sick of this guy Lafleur. He said that like every single week. It feels like I highly doubt David plays this week. Right?
I think it's honestly a possibility to get him
You
some
think
game
so?
reps. No, I'm
You think so?
serious. This is
Yeah.
this game is meaningless, but it's a chance to get him some game reps before the
Yeah.
big game, which is the playoffs. Do you really want to throw a guy out there with no game reps in a playoff game? That's the question. And that kind of leads into we'll intertwine this question as well from Nick Guimer. They ask, with guys coming back, do we put them in or keep the current lineup given our success? So there's the question there too. It's like with some of these guys, like if they're coming in, like let's say in our first playoff game after all this time off, is there a possibility that we integrate them slowly or and keep the guys like maybe Yash over David if we were to um, if we were to not put David out there in week 18 against the Lions, do we just keep Yash out there? Like that's you know what I mean? Like what is the it's a balancing act and it's tough for Matt LaFleur considering the fact that he really doesn't know it seems like when these guys are going to come back. But I feel like there's a good chance. I feel like David's got a better chance this week because Jair's on the COVID list, but he made it sound like both Jair and David are serious possibilities to play, which would be a great sign for them obviously playing in the playoffs. And then Za'Darius has to come off the IR to start practicing, and then I think whenever he gets off IR, he'll probably want to go as soon as possible, like he wanted to go in week 1, and they sent him out there. Like I feel like once he comes back, he'll be back pretty quickly. And then with Josh and Billy, it's tough to say because both those guys have injuries that we don't know too much about right now. So I would say those guys would come after.
It's so crazy. Could you even imagine telling yourself in September that all these guys wouldn't play for the rest of the regular season? Like I did not think we would get to this point, especially with like Bakhtiari. Like I mid-season around like week 10, 11, it's like, oh, one of these guys going to play. It's kind of getting weird that there's no talk of them playing yet. And it's like, oh, they're going to play eventually, before the end of the season, they're going to be playing. So they're not coming in dry for the playoffs. But now it's like we got one more week in a meaningless game where a lot of these starters are going to be on a pitch count already. And that's the only opportunity they have to play before they're literally coming in dry in a playoff game. So I don't know. It's interesting. There definitely could be something to these guys coming in and kind of just making it a little bit wonky and unfamiliar for both sides of the ball. Like I think about like David Bakhtiari. I don't think he's going to have. I think he can only have a positive impact, assuming he's able to come in and play well at the standard that he's set for himself. Because
So wait,
the offense,
let
yeah,
me ask you this then from D_Fontana 3. He asks which injured star David Jair Z needs game action the most before the playoffs. So that's kind of what you're about to
that's a
get
good
to.
question.
It's a good question, right? So some good questions this week about the injuries, not just when are they coming back, but really how we integrate them back, when they could come back, and the possibilities surrounding all of that.
I feel like when you frame it like that, I feel like the answer has got to be Bakhtiari because he's missed the most time. He's at a year. He tore his ACL on what, New Year's Eve? I think it was New Year's Eve of 2019 or 2020. Sorry,
Happy
and
New
so
Year. That was a rough one.
yeah, so he's missed by far the most time of all three of the guys. So maybe it's him who needs it the most, just because he's probably going to have the most rust. Guys like I feel like Jair is just going to be able to plug him in. He's been practicing for so long, and that he's probably just going to be able to come in and play at the All Pro level that we're used to seeing him. Same with Za'Darius, even though he hasn't been practicing. I feel like I feel like Za'Darius is less important because we have guys like Preston and Rashawn who are playing at a high enough level right now where we really don't need him to come in and start right away. But Jair, you have to expect him. If he comes in the playoff game, he's going to be the starter, and I think he's going to be just fine. So I guess the answer to that question would be David for me because it's been so long since he's actually seen the field.
I was just gonna say with Za'Darius, like I feel like you can plug him in and he can just go after the passer right away. But at the same time, like you said, when Jair's in the game, he's playing 100% of the snaps. When David's in the game, it's the same idea. But with Z, he could play maybe half the snaps with the guys we've got rushing the passer now, whether it's obviously Rashawn and Preston or even Jonathan
Just
Garland,
like he
who's
did week
played.
one.
Exactly right. Like he can come in and not play all the snaps and just have as big of an impact as we could have asked for. Um, so I think he'd have the smoothest transition to me, and I would be comfortable with him jumping right into the playoff game, and that's where I feel like he would come in and wreak havoc right away. And that's not the same can't be said for a guy like David. It's going to be tough to really push guys around coming off an ACL a year without getting a practice, without not only really not practicing but no game reps as well. And Jair, I would say, I think I agree with you because Jair, I feel like he could come in and get a feel for the game pretty quickly because a lot of that stuff that he's been dealing with, it's not a leg thing. It's not a, something an ACL. Jair's going to be able to run. He's going to be able to move. He's going to be able to cover guys. The question is really his shoulder and tackling maybe is really just about it. So, and that's really the last thing they have to go through, which is, seeing him in pads and seeing if that shoulder can hold up with a tackle. So I feel like that's really the main concern, but I feel good about all those guys coming back because of the nature of all three injuries, the progression that David's going through, and Matt LaFleur's optimism about him maybe even playing this week. So I feel good about all three of those guys.
Yeah, it's exciting. The thing that gets you a little bit nervous is a potential COVID outbreak because it's literally every week, man. It's like different guys are being added on the list, taken off the list, who's vaccinated, who's unvaccinated. It's so scary. Dennis Kelly got added to the list today, so I mean, I don't know his vaccination status. I don't know if he's going to be able to play on Sunday. I have no idea. And it's scary because it's like if we lose Dennis Kelly in the playoffs and Billy Turner's not able to go yet and Bakhtiari's not able to go yet, like if this was week 14, then God, we are I mean, who is Ben Braden going to play at right tackle? I don't even know.
Ben Braden would probably swing out, I would say, for
Oh
sure.
boy, I mean, it's every team is dealing with this, so it's not a uniquely Packers thing, but that's a scary thing to think about.
You know who I think it would be? Jared Valdir out of retirement again.
How great would that be? Let's bring Tremont back too, and Tyler Irvin for old time's sake.
And Clay.
Clay,
And
you never got
Jordy,
to play
too.
with before. Jordy. Oh man, how about who's like an obscure 2019 Packer?
I've got one. BJ Goodson. Is that correct?
BJ, the linebacker?
Yep.
Oh, wow, the
Is that a
linebacker.
callback or what?
Yeah, that's a callback. BJ
Yeah.
Goodson. Is that the name? Is that his name? Yeah, that's his name, right?
That's
BJ
his name.
Goodson.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, forgot about him. We've had an array of linebackers in these last few years, man. Antonio Morrison,
Oh, I don't want to talk about this, Griff.
Kamal Martin.
We've got Devondre Campbell. We've
Uh,
got the league's best. We
yeah,
don't
we
need
got
to
the
talk
league's
about all
best.
these other
You know,
guys.
he's only missed 4 tackles this whole season.
What a stud.
That's crazy. He's got over. I saw a stat on Twitter today. Mike Renner. He's got over 100 tackles and only 4 missed tackles. Every other linebacker in the league with over 100 tackles has at least 10 missed tackles. You see it on the field too, man. He just like it doesn't matter if it's a receiver, tight end, running back, even if it's not in his zone or his man. Once they get to Devondre Campbell, they're done. Just stop running. Might as well just slide because he's wrapping you up and he's putting you backwards on the ground. I love him.
All right, Griff, here's one last question from Nick.Dozier3. And it's about the playoffs. And we know all about the playoffs because we are the number 1 seed. He asks, who do the Packers have the best shot at beating in the NFC Championship if we get there? And I would say about, let's probably keep it within the Power 5, as I would like to say, as I always say. Um, so who do you think we have the best shot at beating? Do you think it's Dallas like I do? Or do you think maybe that you could even include the Niners, I would say, but you may not think the Niners are our best shot. So what do you think, Griff?
I think our best shot is the Los Angeles Rams. We beat them already at Lambeau Field, and Matthew Stafford is. I'm sorry, man. I'm sick of the Matthew Stafford sympathy. I've had to endure it all season long, all off season long. People thinking that he is God's gift to this earth and that he was cursed by the Detroit Lions organization. I mean, come on. This guy is not. He is not Aaron Rodgers. He's not Tom Brady. He's not even Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, like some people think he is. And I do not trust him to come into a play. He's never won a playoff game in his whole career. I do not trust him to come into Lambeau Field and beat the Packers, knowing how he plays. He is so boomer bust. He throws to the linebacker all the time, especially deep in his own territory. He loves to throw pick sixes. I mean, I think he's been dubbed in league circles Mr. Picky. That's what they're calling him.
League Circles is right, and I think Aaron Rodgers called him that last week in his press conference as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I heard something about that. Yeah.
LaFleur even said that, and he's so complimentary of the teams he's playing against usually, but he just
Yeah.
absolutely just hated on hated on Stafford. Yeah, Mr. Picky is what everybody's been calling him, and I don't know who started that, but it's a great name, and I think it's starting to catch on.
Yeah, I think so too. I do not trust him to come into Lambeau Field and win. Wins aren't a quarterback stat, but they can be quarterbacks can be a losing factor, and Matthew Stafford has proven to be that in history. So I would love to see him come in and throw 3 interceptions in the divisional round.
Another pick six this past weekend, so just on trend for Matthew Stafford. And he just had a terrible situation with a guy named Megatron.
I
Whenever you have
mean,
a guy
like,
named Megatron, that's just how can you play with a guy named
poor
Megatron?
Matthew Stafford, man.
Yeah,
Poor
he's just been
Matthew
in such a
Stafford.
tough spot. Never had a good weapon in his life, and
No.
and he still doesn't have any good weapons. And with Cooper Cup and OBJ and
You know what
Tyler
people
Higbee, he has nothing.
and Sean McVay. And you know what people love to bring up? They love to bring up his game-winning drives. I remember in 2016, he had like 1 billion game-winning drives. Pretty much every week was a game-winning drive. And he did it again against the Ravens on Sunday, even though he puts the team in the hole. Most of the time, he's putting the team in the hole by throwing multiple interceptions and not scoring points for the first 3 quarters. Just like Tom Brady's done that a million times too. Against the Jets on Sunday, Tom Brady did that. I mean, it's so annoying. Game winning drives as a stat is so annoying. And Matthew Stafford, he is the king of how stupid that stat is.
Okay, Griff, I think we should probably leave it there and save a lot of the playoff talk for after this week where we have the definitive picture. because there's a lot going on, and it's almost confirmed. The only team that's not guaranteed a spot right now is the Niners. But if they beat the Rams, they get that playoff spot locked up. But if they lose to the Rams and the Saints beat the Falcons, then that spot goes to the Saints, with the Eagles already clinched. Obviously, the Rams, Cardinals, Bucks, and Cowboys have clinched, as well as the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if you've heard, they have clinched the number one seed in the NFC.
Oh, did
Uh,
they?
yeah, your Green Bay Packers are the number one team in the NFL. So that really is, we have a lot to discuss, but we'll save most of the playoff talk for when we don't have a game to preview, and probably not much to talk about this Lions game. We'll get into all the great stuff, leave you here, but there's going to be a lot of fun playoff talk coming.
That's gonna be
Probably
fun.
next week. That'll be a lot of fun, and we'll really dissect the matchups and everything, and it's going to be so much fun to look at that, and that'll be great. So we'll save that for next week, but Griff, why don't you give us all that information that you're so good at giving us at the end, and then I'll say go Pack go.
Maybe Mason can come back next
Me and
week.
Mason have been in talks about an appearance.
Oh, in
For
talks.
he really wants to discuss this playoff picture, so he is a
Oh, boy.
possibility for the coming weeks. We've been saying it for a while now,
Okay.
but we do have
We've teased
it's
a lot
the talks are
over
a
the
lot
weeks.
of we have been talking, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, we'll see.
Maybe a
That's
player too. Maybe a player as well. We'll get a player on maybe.
Yeah, we had talks with a player.
We've had talks with multiple players.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
the last
We'll
player
see.
we had on was Griff. Do you remember?
I think it had to have been Dominique Daphne.
Dominique
Almost a year
Daphne.
ago.
Yes.
About a year ago. No, this week. A year ago this week.
We'll see what
because
happens.
it was after
but
the Week 17 game. So
I might I might go for it there as well. So we'll see what happens.
we'll see. I mean, don't want to tease anything like we did last time, but we'll see. Stay tuned. Stay tuned to the Today Entitled
Stay
Packers
tuned.
podcast.
You never know who's gonna go. You never know who's gonna appear on this show, because when we get
that's the
somebody,
excitement.
it gets big. So that's the deal.
You open next week's podcast. It could be Mason, it could be Rogers, could be Adams, or it could just be me and Bron again. But that's the excitement of this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week, like I just said, with another podcast to preview the playoff picture, and hopefully we beat the Lions so we can go 14-3. First team in NFL history to go 14-3 would be nice. It's going to be a fun game. Maybe, probably not actually, but it's going to be fun to talk about next week. So go Pack Go. Follow this podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Today in Titletown, at Today Titletown on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at All Day Packers, and you can follow Bron on Instagram at Lambo.Leapers. Almost forgot it there. And that's it. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate the podcast 5 stars, share it with your friends, family, all that stuff. Please tell them to listen to this show. It's your favorite show. Tell them that. And it'll be greatly appreciated. Send us DMs telling us if you like the show, hate the show. That's appreciated too. So thanks so much for listening. Go Pack Go.
Thanks for listening, everybody. As always, go Pack Go, number one seed. We are moving places, everybody. I am so excited. Thanks once again, and go Pack Go.
We are moving places.
We are.